We all have hopes and dreams, and every Janus consumer has hopes and dreams. Their family has hopes and dreams, and that's what Janus is doing, helping fulfill those hopes and dreams and giving families and the consumers a chance, and that's what's so important.
Well, my little brother Jim was born February 7th, 1952. I wasn't 4 years old yet, and I can't remember too much about it, but my older sister remembers sitting on my dad's lap crying as Mom and Dad told us that the baby was not right and he was going to have to go to the hospital. And that meant that institution. Jim had Down syndrome, you see, and that's what they did 60 years ago. You go to an institution, and it just so happened that this institution was over 150 miles from our home. And my parents said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep him at home with the family, and that's... Jim always lived with us. Since Jim and I were the two youngest in the family, I think we formed a little bit more of a bond and played together a lot. I can remember we would do barbershop and Tony. Those days little girls got Tonys, and so he would pretend he was giving me a Tony and doing my hair, and I would shave him, or he probably shaved me too, but you know, we just had fun doing things like that. He had a bicycle, and we would go out. We lived in the country, and in those days you could ride a little bit more safely out in the country. And so we would take bike rides. He loved to go to the cemetery for some reason, and we would pack up a little picnic lunch and ride up the road to the cemetery and eat our lunch outside and then pedal back home. It didn't seem that difficult. I guess maybe I didn't have the right perspective being young as far as the trauma and heartaches that my parents went through. As three older ones, we were often on our own, and Jim was always there. They didn't leave him. We didn't have babysitters as much. Once in a while, a neighbor would come in and stay with him, so he was always around Mom and Dad. I don't think we put a lot of focus on him having a disability. He just was a special little guy in our family. Jim and my mom lived in an assisted living apartment up in our hometown, and she broke her wrist. She had dementia, and we knew that the day was coming when we were going to have to make a decision. Well, it was more the decision about Mom than the decision about Jim, because somewhere along the line in our married career, I think from the very beginning, we knew that Jim would come live with us. So when Mom did go into nursing, we went up, and Jim came back with us the next day, and that's how it happened. And somehow we heard about Janus. I have no idea. I don't know how it all came up, and we started talking to them. And my first thoughts were, but can he do anything? And they smiled and said, you will be surprised what he can do. And Jim was in the workshop program. He did little jobs, or he was limited what he could do, but they found something for him to do. Some of the jobs were possible. And when he first started, we sneaked in one day to kind of watch and see what he was doing, and they were pressing out cardboard for like pizza or cakes and that. And so he'd have this big sheet of cardboard, and then he would push it out and then put it in a box. And we got so tickled because when we were looking at this, one side was shiny and one was just plain cardboard. And so he put it in, and then he realized, uh-oh, I had that the wrong way. I mean, we thought, Jim could do that? It was just, we couldn't believe it. Well, Jim was my little brother, but he was also my pal and my buddy. He was such an important part of our life because of his love that he gave us, no matter what. And we might be chewing at him, but he would just smile and say, okay, honey. He made our house a home. He and Larry were so attached, and memories. He would get ready to go to bed, and he'd say, Cookie, Cookie, and he'd run to his room, and Cookie was to race him to see who got to his room in his bed first. I mean, it's things like that I will always remember. So loving. Give a hug, give a kiss. We called him our love bug. He just was a precious part of our lives.